And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. I had this funny, I know this, but for some reason it hit me tonight, maybe differently than normal, but anyone here for the first time? So like when we all joined palms and we said that stuff, did you say it? Do you have any idea what you said?
No. I started with the first, Buddha is my refuge.
Yeah.
And I stay with that. The rest of it, I didn't say anything.
Yeah. But, okay, great. Can I pick on you since you seem you already sharing? You're cool with that? What's your name?
My name is Miguel.
Miguel. Not in a bad way, but I mean, can we, So when you say the Buddha is your refuge, what does that even mean to you?
Salvation.
In what way?
Comfort.
Comfort?
Wisdom. Love. Trust.
In what, though?
Anything. Whatever you want. If you want to come to him for advice, if you want to come to her for questions,
Right.
or if you're just literally just like gazing at her and looking at her with like wishful eyes and being like, I know you're looking at me, or maybe you're looking at me and maybe you see me.
Yeah.
Because, Buddha has been with me through my journey, well, at least images, and so I think to acknowledge that and feel like whenever I see Buddha, there's like, oh, how sweet, oh, Buddha, like something endearing, and it goes to love and comfort and just acknowledgement, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really question it.
Yeah. No, that was like 1,000 times better than I could have even expected. Like, it's not even the direction I was going in, so I'm so glad that you shared all that. Because where I was going with that was not just for those who are maybe hearing it or saying it for the first time, but for those who are here all the time and have heard me talk about it. Because everything you just described is exactly, in essence, correct, except when we take refuge in the Buddha, what we're actually taking refuge in, and that's why I love the way you said it, isn't the Buddha. Not the image, but what the Buddha actually represents is what? Ourselves. So that's why I loved what you said, because you could find all of that joy, all of that beauty, everything that you just described in you. That's what it means to take refuge in the Buddha. When we say take refuge in the Buddha, what we're actually talking about is what's called bodhicitta, or Buddha nature. And so this idea that we're, to your first word, which was salvation, this idea that we're finding salvation in someone else, with Buddhism, the only place you're going to find salvation with the Buddhist teachings is within yourself. And that's why I loved what you said, we use the images of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all the iconography and everything just as a mirror to reflect back on, it's on me. And so when we say, I take refuge in the Buddha, what just hit me for some reason differently tonight was like all of a sudden there's an entire room filled of people who are finding safety, love, protection, comfort, salvation, all those things you just said, Miguel, in themselves. And if each person can learn to find that safety, comfort, protection, refuge, salvation, whatever it is, in yourself, your life will be so much easier. Because we don't have to seek it in anything or anywhere else or anyone else. We don't have to look for it outside of ourselves. That peace and love and compassion that everybody is so desperately seeking and craving and desiring, you don't have to look anywhere else. You are already it. And that's what the Buddha was talking about, that we are all enlightened beings just as we are. We all have bodhicitta, which is loosely translated to Buddha nature. The awakened being that the Buddha was, we are no different than the Buddha was. So, as a reminder for those who've heard this before, or just maybe those who are hearing this for the first time, these are opportunities to reflect back on yourself and realize you're okay. You really are okay. And most people who end up here on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, or any Buddhist place for that matter, have often spent many years telling themselves they're not okay. And so this is just your gentle, subtle reminder that you are okay. All of your madness, all of your craziness, all the shit that's in your head, all the things that you think are wrong with you, all the things you've listened to other people tell you all your life about what's wrong with you, you're okay. So, don't forget that. And that idea of refuge in yourself is really important. Now, of course, Buddhist teachings go on to say there is no self, so then it gets really confusing, but we won't worry about that right now. Right? So, thanks, Miguel, for sharing that. All right, so welcome to those who are joining virtually. Thanks for showing up. Feel free to say hello as you are. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. We'll start with the meditation practice. For those who are maybe here for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. Right? You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice of learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often helps. Slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Same thing if you're on a bench or chair. Just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. It just means your leg hurts, so you need to simply move. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything from this practice. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus. to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice, just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, and quiet. Just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada. Means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And very often, as we know, the present moment is filled with chaos, conflicts, difficulties, challenges. This is life. This is learning to be with life as it arises. So much of our lives we're running from things, or places, or people. Or we're running towards things, or places, or people. And this practice is about slowing down and becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. Because that creates your reality. That creates your life. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of all your thoughts, all your words, and all your actions. And understanding the intentions behind them. And being able to honestly look at yourself and ask yourself, are your intentions coming from a place of greed, anger, ignorance, or from a place of generosity, compassion, and wisdom? In other words, do you see yourself as the center of the universe, thinking you're most important? Or do you recognize there's a whole world of other people out there that are equally as important as you are? They're not any less or more important than you, but they're equally as important. In so much of our lives, we don't think that way. We see the world through our lens, our perception of reality, and everything we do comes from that place. And this practice really is about taking a step back for a minute and just being mindful and aware of what is around us. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything outside of us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets a little bit simpler. But it's a practice. It's not easy. Being honest with ourselves is often very challenging and difficult. Being able to look at ourselves very honestly and authentically is very challenging and difficult. But that's where the practice begins. And once you can kind of open up your heart and your mind to realizing you're not nearly as bad as you think you are, then that's where it begins. So for me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. To those who are joining virtually, again, welcome, glad you're here. There's a chat box somewhere. If you have any questions, feel free to put them there. And I'll do my best to respond, so we'll use the rest of the brief time this evening for questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, or anything you're sitting with. There we go. Any questions?
No questions. Just sharing.
Questions?
My question is, how do you discern between knowing when you probably should be present, which I think a lot of us struggle with that, and when it's necessary to kind of check out? Like, say, I'm going to use the most extreme example, if you're being attacked by a bear or something, like, you might not want to be present through all of that. And I think there's times in our lives when maybe it's necessary that we don't.
Yeah. So just to paraphrase for those virtually who didn't hear it, your question, if I heard you correctly, is how do we discern between when it's important to be present with our lives and when it's important to check out? And you said as an example, if there was a bear chasing you, you probably wouldn't want to be present, you'd probably want to check out. And so kind of what's the difference between the two, yeah?
Yeah.
So great question, and it's important to understand that if there's a bear, run. Let me just start there, right? But here's the thing. Be present while you're running. Checking out, at least, and it's just the words you used, but checking out is not, it's not the opposite of presence. Like, the way I heard you say it was like you're either present or you're checking out as if you're going somewhere. So going somewhere, well, I'll just stick to your example. When you're running from the bear, be present. Because if you're not paying attention and present while you're running from the bear, what are you going to do? I mean, you don't have to answer that, but you get it, right? Maybe you're not paying attention. Maybe you're not mindful. Maybe you're not aware. Maybe you trip. Maybe you fall. Maybe you actually get lost and start running towards the bear, you know? So this practice is, first and foremost, and I talk about this all the time, anytime things like this come up, is always be safe. Whether it's a bear or, you know, any human relationship or whatever it might be, we always want to put safety and boundaries and things like that as a priority. But remove ourselves from unhealthy, unsafe situations. But that doesn't mean you're not being present. If we're in unhealthy, unsafe, toxic situations, relationships, environments, we should be very present to that experience and quickly get out. Does that make sense? You see the difference? Yeah. So, presently check out. Presently leave. Yeah. What else?
Jeff, this is a silly question. I've been trying to talk my sister into coming here for a while, and we grew up Catholic, and she finally said, all right, I'll go with you to the Sunday equivalent of Mass. what is the Buddhist Sunday equivalent of Mass? I'll go with
Just tell her Tuesday night at 7.
Yeah, right. And I it's not like that.
Yeah.
For me, but-
So let me back up just to kind of expand on that a little bit, because I think many people can, hopefully pull something from this. So the question for those who didn't hear it was, you've been trying to get your sister to come for a long time, and she finally agreed, and she said, just bring me to whatever is equivalent to the Sunday equivalent to Mass, that you grew up Catholic. First and foremost, always I tell people, whenever they ask, like, how do I get so-and-so involved or interested or things like that, it's like, you don't, I mean, I love the effort, but very often, think about a time in your life where somebody said to you, hey, you should really go check out this Buddhist place. You would have been like, nah, right? There would have been a time in your life that probably would have been your response. So you found it, you checked it out, you went to it, you started going to it when you were ready and it was right for you. So I say that in general for everybody, that, anytime, it's not like a movie. We see a movie, we tell people it was a good movie, they don't feel threatened. They might not go see it. We tell them we went to a restaurant we like. They don't feel threatened. They might not go eat there. But you tell them you go to some Buddhist thing, and they're like, yo, keep your shit to yourself. Right? They become very like that. So especially if their personal religious upbringing and beliefs are important to them, then they may feel this is really kind of infringing upon that space. So it's not uncommon for, loved ones, family members, friends, etc., to kind of just be a little bit put off by someone trying to get them to go to their little meditation Buddhist thing, right? To a lot of people, this stuff is just weird. To a lot of people, kindness and compassion is just weird, right? So I'll come back to you, hang on. So keep that in mind, and that, again, that's just for everybody. Specifically to your question about like the Sunday equivalent to Mass, I'm Jewish, never been to Mass. I don't even know what that is, right? But what I would tell you is it may be helpful to, maybe I'm a little biased because I lead both of them, but I would bring her to one of the intro classes, the Tuesday night or Saturday morning, because those are really geared towards people that come for the first time and are learning for the first time. And, many people have a bit of a resistance to things like this. So that's always in my mind, that people come to a Tuesday night or a Saturday morning to check it out. They usually sit near the back by the door just to make sure it's not weird so they can, leave if they have to. The very direct response is like, they don't do Mass, but you can come to kind of an introduction class and see what you like. See if you like it.
Can I say just two more things?
You can say as many things as you want.
Thank you. I think she finally said she'd come because she noticed a difference in me over the past year. I think that's why. So that's a positive rather than
100%.
pressure. But I really appreciate your point, because she's not the only person I've talked to about this. And because it has had such a positive impact for me. But so I guess if your background is Jewish, then is there a weekly or monthly or I'm not looking for the Mass equivalent, like this is one of my favorites, I'll probably remember this, but is there a monthly, weekly thing? Is it just meditating in a Sangha? Is that like...
Yeah, I mean, Buddhists, first, before I forget this, I'm glad you said the first part, because that is something I almost always say, which I didn't tonight, which is the best way to get people interested is, you let them know about it, and then you just kind of shut up. You practice, it changes your life, they recognize the difference, and then they're like, wow, you're different. So that is actually, I think, one of the best ways for people you know and love, and you want them to maybe start meditating because they're stressed or angry or whatever. So I think that's a great way, and I appreciate you sharing that. The second part, Buddhists are not, they're not big on monthly things, on Mass type things, on holiday type things, right? There's Vesak Day, which celebrates the day, the birth, the death, and the day of the Buddha's awakening. And that's, usually around April time frame, based on the lunar calendar. It varies each year. But there really isn't. There's not that thing. I mean, every Buddhist temple you go to, and there's within 10 miles of here, no joke, 10-mile radius, there's probably 40 Buddhist temples. And they will all have a completely different form, way of practicing, schedule, meditation, Dharma talks, Buddhist stuff, ritual. All of them will be so different. But, yeah.
No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
How do you let go of resentment and anger that is just, eating you and not letting you grow?
Yeah. So the question was, how do you let go of anger and resentment that's just eating at you and not letting you grow? So my question, what's your name?
Miguel.
Miguel. My question, Miguel, is how can you not let it go when it's eating at you and it won't let you grow? Do you realize you need to? Yeah? Is that a yes? Or yeah. And I understand the nature of the question. That's why you're asking, because you want to let it go. You want to move on. The resentment destroys us. Anger destroys us. I spent 25 years of my life angry and pissed off at everything. It's what led me to this path and practice, was tremendous anger. And, to this day, and I spent, 25 years working in prisons and around a lot of angry, hostile environments. And I've rarely, if ever, met somebody that I felt truly was angrier than I was as a teenage kid, right? And for me, as a personal experience, I reached a point of I can't live with this anger anymore. That's why my question to you is, how can you not? And I understand that's what's driving the question, which is you want to. But it has to be more than just intellectually. It has to be that heart that says, I cannot spend one more day hating myself or hating others because it's killing me. And then you begin. I wish it was here, turn to page 7 and you'll be good to go. No, it has to burn in you so deeply that you say to yourself, I cannot live with this anger anymore because it's destroying me. And you're pretty young. How old are you? 45, right? Well, to me, that's still pretty young. I'm getting older, right? So there's people here that have been carrying that anger and hatred for 60, 70, 80 years. So tell yourself right now at 45 that you'd like to wake up at 50 or 55 and not have that anger. And give yourself a couple years. It is not going to go away tomorrow. If you've been angry and pissed off for 45 years, it's going to take more than 3 months. It's not another program, it's not another class, it's not another workshop, it's not another $1,000. It is you committing to taking care of your heart and your mind every single day for the next 5 years. So when you do turn 50, you can wake up and say, wow, that anger and resentment I carried for 45 years, it's just not there anymore. But it's not quick, and it's not easy. It is not turning your life over to something else or someone else or somewhere else. It actually brings back to my original point. It's turning your life over to you that says, you know what? I am making myself angry my whole life. And I can stop making myself angry. And when I say you have to do the work, what I mean by that is develop a daily meditation practice. In Buddhist teachings, there's the Four Noble Truths. The first one is that life is filled with suffering. Doesn't mean all of life sucks, right? It just means that we're going to suffer a lot in our lives. Pain, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, extreme suffering, trauma, death, loss, things like that, and also just little stupid stuff. You don't like the way your coffee was made or your sandwich wasn't prepared properly. So we experience a lot of suffering throughout our lives. The second noble truth is the cause. And this is where you're at. The cause of suffering is greed, anger, and ignorance. And we overcome greed with generosity. We overcome anger with compassion. We overcome ignorance with wisdom. Your question specifically is about anger, which is resentment and anger, it's all tied together. So the practice, the medicine, as it's referred to in Buddhism, is compassion. So your practice is to meditate daily for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and bring acts of compassion into your life. Helping strangers, helping loved ones, helping yourself. Just pour compassion. The big statue in the middle here, her name is Kuan Yin. Her name means hearer of the world's cries. So she hears all this, it's a metaphor of course, but she hears all the suffering in the world. And she holds a vase or pours a vase of compassion to heal. So you need to carry a vase of compassion So everything you do, every day, you have 1 or 2 or 3 acts of compassion. Because when we act compassionately, you ever help somebody in your life? I mean, you're 45. By now, you probably helped somebody at least once, right?
Yeah, of course.
When you help somebody, how does that feel?
Great.
Great. You need to do that more. Do that every single day. I'm not kidding, for like a year, 2 years. This shit doesn't happen overnight. But that's what I'm talking about, like that anger that was in me. I was like, I'm done. I do not want to live this way anymore. And my master told me exactly what I'm telling you. I'm not your master. I'm just like, I've been through this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Compassion every day. And eventually the heart opens, the love pours out, and then you start looking back and you realize, like, man, everything I've been carrying around for 40 years, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And a lot of stuff we're angry about, happened so many years ago. They've moved on, they're over it, they're not even thinking about you, and you're giving them life every single day in your head and in your heart. And you asked the question, but this is to everybody, because there's not anyone in here that doesn't have anger and resentment. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. As far as, with little kids, showing them compassion, I think they're very pure souls. I'm around a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of a community of kids and parents, and some of the kids are coming to school with a lot of stuff from home.
Mm.
And so not all of the kids, but some of them are coming into my class like that.
Sure.
So, I just have a lot of literature and I come from my heart, but, and so I am compassionate with them, but at some point, I don't want to be overly firm with them, but I want to be honest. So how do you find that medium?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful here because, it's children, and, don't push meditation, Buddhist stuff at them. Like you said, they're coming in. It's funny because this might seem a little odd, but so what you said was the children are coming into school or wherever is this a school? It doesn't matter, but they're coming into where you're at with a lot of stuff from home. And then they show up and you're trying to show compassion and guide them and help them and teach them, right? Well, you know what you all did today? The equivalent of school. You're coming in here at 7 o'clock at night with a lot of stuff that you just picked up all day long. All you can do is try to model and love them and care about them and share from your heart, but they're going to make their own choices. But let them be motivations for you to continue to practice kindness. And, as the starfish story, where you save one, you touch one kid's life, you change one kid's life, that's all that matters. So just keep pouring out that heart and compassion and you'll be all right. Did you have your hand up?
I was going to say what you were saying before, and the way you answered it or you talked about it, it's like I have a lot of bad habits. I just get stuck in things, and I don't feel like angry and resentment all the time, but the way that I respond to things is, I'm not thinking about it, I'm mindlessly responding. It's a bad habit. And so you said, practice this every day, right? It's challenging and coming up with a new habit.
Yes.
So where's the magic wand to make the best habit?
That was the 6 o'clock class. I'm sorry. Yeah. The magic wand. See, that's the thing. It's like I wish. Wouldn't it be so nice? If there was that magic wand, it would be so simple. But this might not sound that inspiring or encouraging, but it's the truth. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. This practice. But the benefit, I was going to say rewards, but the benefit from it is worth it. When you begin to recognize, let's say you have 20 bad habits or whatever, I'm just making a number up. Cut it down to 18. It was in my old kind of business days, I used to read Stephen Covey stuff, and he wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And one of the things he taught was that it takes 21 days to create a habit. A lot of bad habits we've been doing for a lot longer than 21 days, right? So something I picked up years ago, kind of combining some of that stuff I learned with Buddhist practice was for all the bad habits I have or had, right, I would try to kind of put in place a good habit and do that for 21 days. And there's only so much time in the day. So, if you try to replace some of the bad habits you have with other good, healthy habits, I mean, eventually you're just going to get tired and want to go to sleep. So, maybe you don't have time anymore for some of the bad habits because you've replaced them with good habits. So that was kind of my trick. Instead of trying to stop the bad habit, I just focused on all the good habits, and that didn't leave much time to do all the bad habits, right? Or at least didn't leave time for all of them, right? I kind of cut them down a little bit. So, and I also think that, all of our habits are different in how we, how they play in our lives, whether they harm us or harm others, and sometimes both. But I think if we begin to see that the habitual kind of behaviors that we have, when they come from greed, when they come from anger, when they come from ignorance, meaning most habits, I believe, that are unhealthy are really kind of selfish. We're like, it's about me. And so if we want to try to break those habits, one thing that can help break those habits is to start to practice this kind of teaching of non-self, which says, look, life isn't about just me. So my bad habits, they're to feed my ego, my pride, what I want, what I need. But if I practice this loving kindness and compassion and non-self, which says others are equally as important as I am, then that's where my energy, that's where my attention, that's where my heart and mind go to. And then you're not focused on yourself anymore. And when you don't focus on yourself and you focus on others and you're helping people, that just feels good. And when you feel good, you tend to be happier. And when you're happier, you tend to do less stupid stuff. Right? So simple. So that's the one.
Okay, but it's like the knee-jerk reaction. I want it to be the positive, good habit as opposed to this bad habit kind of a thing. So.
Totally. So hard. Yeah.
Hi. So I kind of want to just talk a little about what I'm going through and why I'm here.
Yeah.
I've been clean off of substance, off of meth for about over 2 Fridays.
Nice.
So part of what keeps bringing me out there is I've been trying to find my purpose, what I'm meant to do, and I keep failing to look at the big picture, what's brought me here. There's always been, no matter when I'm struggling, there's always been helping hands to help pull me up whenever I'm at my lowest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the kindness, the compassion, the love, and all of the things that make us great that has been shown to me and has pulled me out of this. So why not just give that back? That's what I've been struggling with most is I don't give enough back. Knowing what I'm grateful for and what I've been through, and happy to be alive still over all of that stuff. Like, I have a story that needs to be told so that way the person next to me can survive.
Mm-hmm.
I have been selfish and keeping it to myself because I've been trying to discover what I'm meant to do, who I am, what my being is. And finally, over this last couple of weeks, last Monday, I really started trying to take care of myself. Mental health is something that I struggle with, and not enough people talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get my medication back up and right so that way I could start thinking again. I'm fortunate enough to have a constant ringing in my ear, and that's due to trauma and other stuff, so I can have a pretty quiet brain whenever I choose.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to get excited and motivated and finding that passion that will continue to move me forward to help those in front of me that are still struggling.
Sure.
And kind of all of that's been finally just developing in my thought process and in my brain. How can I do better for others?
Yeah.
And what can I put together to help others? And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And trying to, I've never been a selfish person, but if I look at me trying to discover myself, I have been very selfish in trying to do that. And so that's the next step, to lose self.
Yeah.
And try to understand that we all do suffer, and what can I do to help ease that?
Yeah. So, what's your name?
Scott.
Scott, I appreciate you sharing all that. Congrats on 2 weeks. I mean, everything starts just one day at a time, as you know, so that's great. Keep going. And just a couple things I'll touch on is, so this idea of non-self and the selfishness, yes, it's really important that you take care of yourself, right? Your mental, emotional health and well-being is critical and vital for your life, right? So even in this practice of non-self and having compassion and helping others, we do want to find a balance where we can't ignore the self. There's a great Zen master, Dogen, he would say, you have to get to know the self before you get rid of the self. So always focus on you first. But I just wanted to say that, and then I want to say something that might completely throw you off. But I think it's important for me, from a practice perspective and looking at it through a Buddhist lens. I've been there, done everything you've done. I've worked in that environment for 25 years. I've seen it and heard just about everything. And I know your fight and your journey and your struggle is not easy. So I give you credit for where you're at right now and for showing up, because you've been through hell just to get to this point. But here's my suggestion. Stop looking for purpose. That's a hell of a burden to put on yourself. You're just trying to get through each day. And I get it. Most therapists, most friends, most people may tell you, find your purpose in life and you'll be okay. What? There's a kid here. Like, who says that to somebody? Go find your purpose. You don't even know how you're going to get through the day tomorrow, right? And yet all of a sudden now in your head you have this burden of needing to find your purpose. People spend their entire life trying to find their purpose, and so many of them die never finding it, because guess what? What if there is no purpose? Stop looking for a purpose. Just breathe, smile, and be kind to yourself and others. Make that, if you want a purpose for the next 3 years of your life, breathe what you're doing. You're smiling right now, and my guess is you know how to be kind. That's your purpose. Can you handle that for the next 3 years? Yeah? Great, you found your purpose. Right? Some stranger that you've never seen before, you may never see again, some weird Buddhist dude just answered all of your life's problems. Right? There's your purpose. But I say this jokingly and obviously seriously, because, and again, this is for everybody. So many people show up at places like this wanting to know what, somebody, you're familiar with Dalai Lama, you heard of him? Well, great Buddhist teacher. Somebody asked him, what's the purpose of life? He said, just to be kind. And if you can't be kind to people, at least don't hurt them. And that also includes ourselves. So try to be kind to ourselves. And if we can't be kind to ourselves, at least don't hurt ourselves. But to expect people to kind of roam around and spend their entire life trying to find their purpose, you'll be searching forever. Purpose in life is a really heavy burden to put on yourself. And that pressure, for most people, is overwhelming. And even if you think you found your purpose, that will change. And then what, have you no longer found your purpose? Smile, breathe, be kind. That's it.
And make peanut butter sandwiches.
I make peanut butter sandwiches. I was already going to recruit him at the end for the Friday volunteer service. Don't worry, but I appreciate you. Yeah. What are you doing Friday to celebrate 3 weeks? Friday, we need volunteers at 4. I'll do this at the end, but yeah, hang on. So we're going to join palms and close. Yeah. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Shirley Tam during her time of rebirth, and to Danny and their family and friends who suffer at this time. All right, so before you head out, our Dharma Bum host Molly has a few announcements, and as she's walking up, let me come back to the Friday thing. So Friday, we do a lot with San Diego Pride and the LGBTQ community, and so we are, I have graciously signed us up to have 20 volunteers Friday, 4 o'clock. We're going to meet at the Pride Flag, which is University Avenue and Normal Street. Trans Family Support Services Saturday is having a Boo Parade or Boo celebration for Halloween for kids. And it's not a parade, but a celebration for kids. And so I've signed us up to hang up green screens on fences. Friday, 4 o'clock. If you go to there's a flyer out there, you can scan the QR code, or you can just go to the website, either way. But we need about 10 more volunteers Friday, 4 o'clock to hang green screens on fences for a couple hours to help San Diego Pride and Trans Family Support Services. So, and to celebrate you and yes, thanks.
Hi everyone. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always great. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library, and if you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you're done. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.